Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. So the 80s and the 90s was probably one of the toughest times to play in the NBA. Each game was a battle, and if you came head to head with the toughest of the tough, then you knew you were in for a fight. The current NBA is considered soft compared to the old school days, and this is why many old school fans loved to watch the NBA back then. Most of the players were tough, but a select few loved to play dirty and earned a reputation for it. These players that we'll take a look at today were the dirtiest in the NBA. If they were on your team, you loved them, but competing against them was another thing. Today's topic is the top 5 dirtiest old school NBA players. But before we get into the video, click on that like button and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. This countdown is simply our top 5, but in no particular order. So at number 5, we have Rick MAHORN. Rick MAHORN was the number 1 bad boy on the Detroit Pistons during the late 80s and early 90s. He was considered the baddest of the bunch because he was the one who always ended up in the middle of an altercation and wasn't scared to get down and dirty with the competition. He was a 6'11" power forward / center who only averaged 6.9 points per game his entire career. He wasn't a huge offensive threat, but his physicality definitely made up for where he was lacking. He was a hustle player and fought for every loose ball possible, and every team needs a player like MAHORN on their roster. MAHORN was also known for the pulling the chair trick on defense that many opponents completely hated. He wasn't scared to do the little tedious tasks, and that's what made him one of the dirtiest players in the league at this time. Check out some of the dirtiest plays from Rick MAHORN. And next we have Charles Oakley. Oakley played for the Knicks, Raptors, Wizards, Bulls, and the Rockets, and whatever jersey he wore that season, he never held back from being the physical center that he was. If you were playing against Oakley, you might have to say a prayer that he'll take it easy on you, but of course that never happened. Components couldn't show 1 ounce of softness because Oakley would absolutely destroy you. His nickname was the Oak Tree, simply because he wasn't scared to foul someone going to the basket just to stop them, and he wasn't afraid of a little fight either. He's known as one of the dirtiest players in the NBA, and this is why he's on our list. Check out some of the highlights of the Oak Tree and some of his dirtiest plays. And next at number 3 is Bruce Bowen. Bruce Bowen is one of those players who would act like he had no idea what he did, but at the same time he knows exactly what he did. He did whatever he could to stop opponents from scoring and was also known as a great defender. He He was very sneaky and got away with a lot of jersey grabbing and shoving players from behind. He sometimes would stick his foot out under shooters when they're in the middle of a shot, which is very, very dangerous. He caused players a lot of ankle injuries from the level of dirty that he played with. If he's looking at the ref with his arms up and the "what did I do" expression on his face, he was definitely guilty of something. Check out some of Bruce's dirtiest plays. And at number 2 is, of course, the one and only Dennis Rodman. He was a beast in the paint and, of course, one of the best rebounders in the game. But in order to be successful, especially spending most of your time in the paint, you had to throw some cheap shots here and there. He was wild and reckless at times and wasn't afraid of contact in the paint. He loved to get into the competition's head, and he did this best. Rodman, also known as Dennis the Menace, was popular because of his physical style of play, weird style and personality, and not being scared of getting dirty. Fans couldn't get enough of him, but competitors couldn't stand him. Check out some of Rodman's dirtiest moments. And lastly on our list is the one and only bad boy, Bill Laimbeer. When he played for the Detroit Pistons, he was a part of the Bad Boys along with Rick MAHORN, who is also on this list. He was another one who wasn't scared to stir up some trouble, throw some cheap shots if he didn't like you, and flop on the play if he could sell the foul. He was one of the most hated, and even Michael Jordan hated to play against Bill. He thrived being the aggressive player he was and throwing players off their game. He made sure he used all his tools to win, and this meant physically and mentally. He didn't care if you called him dirty because he did everything possible to win, and that was okay with him. Check out some cheap shots Laimbeer used to get into the opponent's heads. So they always say basketball is 80% mental and 20% physical. or something like that. But to these guys, they focus more on the physical in order to get to their opponent's mental. This strategy isn't for everyone, but it worked for them. So from watching our top 5 dirtiest players list, who do you think is the dirtiest of all time? Do any players currently in the NBA compare to these bad boys? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for tuning in to watch today's video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more.